What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Scouting Combine here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Today, Eric Smith is not my co-host today. He's actually coaching up high school football, as he has said plenty of times. He's getting these new young offensive linemen ready for the college and the NFL. Who knows, maybe one day they could be a Dolphins offensive lineman. Today, my guest co-host is Alfredo Araga of 3 Yards Per Carry. Alf, how we doing today?
Doing great. Got kind of a break right here, right? Because tomorrow they have a day off. Friday's the game. Saturday and Sunday, they got them off as well. So I'll be back at practice on Monday. So essentially, I got 4 days off here to do nothing.
To do nothing. Constantly podcasting, talking, especially on OnlyFins, which is $3 a month on Discord. Talk about that, Alf.
Yeah, it's discord.gg/OnlyFins, and you can get on there for $3 a month.
Of course, the link is right below in our YouTube comment section as well. And make sure if you guys are tuning in, give us a like, subscribe, and comment below. You guys can control the show, what we talk about, and we can answer some questions. So, Alf, the biggest question of the day obviously is Aaron Brewer. How's he doing? But we will get to that a little bit later. Let's talk about the joint practices these last 2 days that the Dolphins and the Atlanta Falcons have gone through. A lot of similarities between coaches and players as well between the Falcons and the Dolphins. They have had joint practices a lot the last 3 years. Mike McDaniel was part of the Falcons coaching staff back when they went to the Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan, and the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons is Raheem Morris, which Mike McDaniel has a really good relationship with. Before we get into the X's and O's, let's talk about that, how key it is for Mike McDaniel and Raheem Mostert to learn from each other.
Well, I think Raheem Morris, especially
Raheem Morris,
his defense very Fangio-esque, but with some more pressure five influences. So he brings more blitzes. I think that they got in good work for day one. I thought today was a total waste, really. They spent most of the day fighting, and then you had the injury to Rondale Moore that cut practice short for the last 30 minutes of practice. And the last 30 minutes happens to be when they do the simulated portions of practice. So they didn't get to do any of that stuff. So today you essentially saw the Dolphins run plays from the 50-yard line, and it was like a 5-to-1 run-pass ratio. So they were essentially just running the football today over and over and over again. Well, but, we did get to see a lot of diversity in the running game. So that kind of portends to something that they're going to do this year. Like they're going to expand the playbook on the run side of things. So that is interesting, and that is good to see. But I thought today was pretty much a wasted day of practice.
Oh, that's really hard to hear. We do know that Aaron Brewer went down with what sounds like a hand injury to his non-dominant hand. Obviously, we don't have the official report yet from the Dolphins team or an official statement yet, so we'll leave that up to speculation for a little bit. But it's good to hear that they're diversifying their run game. We're adding in wrinkles as well. If you take a look at our previous shows at the Scouting Combine with Eric and I, a lot of their runs are pretty similar. However, they're in different formation, and sometimes the defense could sniff it out as well. Was there any sniff out of runs from the Falcons defense today or from their defensive line?
No, you could see that they were sticking to the principle as far as, on outside zone. That's old hat already, and everybody in the league knows that the Dolphins want to get to it, so they want to cheat on it. But that's why Miami has some passes off of those run actions, and they have some runs that are going to take advantage of how defenses are going to try to defend outside zone. So I can't get too deep into what they're doing, to combat what teams are going to do to combat their outside zone runs. But I think you're going to begin to see some of it in these preseason games because, like I was saying a little bit earlier, it's been a while since the Dolphins play a first preseason game that's going to be as interesting as this one. You're going to get to see players like Jaylen Wright, Patrick Paul, Chop Robinson, Mo Kamara, Malik Washington. So this is going to be a lot of fun on Friday and kind of consequential. There's going to be some important play from a bunch of guys to try to earn spots on this team. This is a more important game one than most years.
All right, you talk a little bit about Malik Washington, Chop Robinson, the rookies as well. We heard a little bit about Malik Washington standing out today and yesterday in the absence of Jaylen Waddle, Odell Beckham Jr., and even Braxton Berrios. What was his day like today and yesterday?
Well, yesterday I thought he was pretty good, but I gave my player of the practice yesterday to River Cracraft, and lo and behold, he was wearing the orange today. So I've hit 2 of those so far, and I should have 2 more because I always pick the runner-up, and the other 2 times I had the runner-up. The other 2 times I had the time that Anthony Walker won it, I had given it to Javon Holland, and when Tua won it, I had given it to Jaylen Waddle. So today, Malik Washington was making plays, and he caught a beautiful go route from Mike White that was an absolute dime, and he beat 2 shell coverage, which is pretty good to see. The way he stemmed his route was actually pretty good, especially you have those red lines. And by the way, those are not soccer markings, people. Okay, so those of you online that try to make yourself sound smarter than you are, you're not. Okay, those are aiming points for the cornerbacks and the wide receivers and the quarterback to know where you got to throw this ball and what you got to defend toward the sideline. Malik Washington was consequential today. Converted a couple of first downs, caught that deep ball. So I decided to give it to him. And I wasn't going to cheat and give it to somebody on defense just because I saw 2 plays. The defense was on the far field, so I was trying to watch them when Kirk Cousins was on the field and when Michael Penix was on the field. So I saw Jordan Brooks make a play. I saw Tier Tart get a tackle for a loss. So it was sparse plays here and there. So I wasn't going to cheat. So I was going to pick somebody that I actually saw play every single snap. So Malik Washington got my practice player of the day. And he was really good. And he's being asked to do a lot of the motions that, Tyreek Hill does. So a lot is on his plate, and he performed well.
That's good to hear. And, Eric and I have brought up the fact that if guys like Malik Washington, Odell Beckham Jr., Braxton Berrios are not able to get it going, a guy like Devon Achane could be slotted in as a third wide receiver. We know he's got the speed. He's been working a lot on his pass catching as well. But that's for, a later show. Maybe we see something in the preseason or something the Dolphins have kept a little bit tight to their lips as well. And we don't want to give out too much information. The other standout has been cornerback Ethan Bonner. Now we know Jaylen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, a lot of the fast guys on the team have said, hey, Bonner is up there. And Ethan Bonner can really, really make a difference in terms of speed, but we haven't really heard a lot about his techniques. What have you seen so far from him these last 2 days?
Well, he has a skill set that you just can't teach. When you throw a go route to Jaylen Waddle and Ethan Bonner's on his hip and making a play on the ball, that's something that most guys can't do. When Tyreek Hill is running a go route and the ball is on target, and then he makes a play on the ball, and when you're watching the play, you don't know if Ethan Bonner intercepted it, that's a play that most guys can't make. He's just athletically gifted, and he's beginning to show some chops as far as punching the ball out, playing physically. There was a brawl started when he punched the ball out on a short pass yesterday. Ethan Bonner has been a revelation for this team. Cam Smith found another injury today. He was kind of grabbing himself, so that kind of suggests to me that it's a groin injury. Ethan Bonner has made the absence of Cam Smith old hat almost. So you're talking about a team that's going to be pretty deep on the boundary. And I like what I see, and there's no other way you can slice it. He's good at football. He can play this game.
Can he, potentially get some snaps? I know we'll see him in the preseason, and we'll see how he does in the preseason up against second, third, and fourth string wide receivers. Do you think he gets meaningful snaps in the regular season? Does he make the roster?
Yeah, absolutely. He makes the roster for sure. I think he's probably going to be a dime cornerback which means he's going to play in games. He's going to play 15 snaps maybe.
Someone
So
called Bonner White lightning from Jason Stamps.
yeah, so yeah, he's made the team, and he's probably going to be. I think if they have to choose instead of playing 3 safeties, I think they're just playing extra cornerback, and he'll be the dime corner, on this team because he's pretty good. Like you can play him on the boundary, and you could count on him to carry guys into the deep third or carrying them across the field. Like he's that athletically gifted.
Interesting. Maybe the Dolphins have found their own Cooper DeJean. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
The other early standout, and he was penciled in as the quote-unquote starter on the edge. We do know that Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb are on the PUP list, so he's penciled in as the starter for now. Quinton Bell has been a sort of a revelation as of late. CK Parrott has talked about him. Eric also has talked about him, and he's talked about his journey similar to another former Dolphin who may go into the Dolphin Ring of Honor and potentially the Hall of Fame, Cam Wake. He's definitely got, the size and the skill set that Cam Wake had when he first came to Miami. Again, when he first came to Miami, not what he was when he first came to Miami. How are the linebacker coaches, especially Coach Crow, working with Bell? And is this someone who can essentially replace Andrew Van Ginkel and his production?
Well, I said after one practice, and I put this on OnlyFans. I said, look, hot take. I think he starts opposite of Jalen Phillips week 1 and plays 20 to 30 snaps with Chop Robinson getting the balance. Okay. I think as a specialist, as a pass rusher, he's already made the team, and I think he's going to play a lot. I like to see him in coverage because he had a bad moment yesterday or 2 days ago. He had a bad moment against Alec Ingold when Alec Ingold went to the flat, and it's one of those things where the rules are pretty simple. He's going to have to carry Alec Ingold up the field. He's going to have him one-on-one. Alec Ingold kind of sold him on the flat route, and I'm pretty sure that they're taught to trail, but Quinton Bell got in the trail technique, and Alec Ingold bended up, and he beat him he opened up 2 or 3 lengths on him, and Tua just dropped it over Quinton Bell's head, and it was a big play for Alec Ingold in one of the simulated portions of practice. So I want to see him a little bit more in coverage in the short zone because that's important, but he's going to be asked to rush the passer and to stack against the run, and that's what we have to really care about because it's going to be very rare where the rules are going to dictate that he's going to have to carry a running back up the field because that's likely not going to happen. It was just in this instance where he was carrying a fullback up the field and Alec Ingold beat him. But I want to see him. I want to see him early on. I think he'll start on Friday. Why not? Why wouldn't he start? Unless they're already going to start treating him like a starter and he's not going to play. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see him play, especially against the run, because I know he can get to the quarterback. He's very bendy, has a good first step. We know Chop Robinson can do that, but we know that Quinton Bell kind of has although he's different. His pass rushing style is a lot different than Chop Robinson's. Chop Robinson's going to beat you with his first step. He's basically going to try to run right around you. Okay. Quinton Bell's a little bit more maniacal of a pass rusher. He's more in the Melvin Ingram type of role. He's going to try to win with a little bit of strength.
And the next thing is more so from the offensive standpoint. Tanner Conner, Julian Hill, how are they faring in terms of pass and run blocking?
Julian Hill has made the team. He's been a revelation. I wouldn't be surprised if they use his development to get out from under Durham Smythe's number next season. He'll be here this year. But next season, they seek a savings there, and Julian Hill just takes over his spot. He's been very, very, very good in camp. Tanner Conner got started off really, really hot, really fast in camp. He's tailed off some, and he's losing some snaps to other guys like Jody Forston, who just looks the part, although he does drop passes. But so has Tanner Conner. So as he's faded, Julian Hill has ascended. And I think Julian Hill he's been a revelation. He's been a guy that you got to watch going forward. I think he's going to be really, really good for this team for a very long time.
This kind of ties into this new type of motion that the Dolphins are trying out a little bit, especially with their tight ends and running backs. Let me go ahead and pull it up right here. One play, I believe this was the 50-yard play bomb to Tyreek Hill, which was basically a touchdown, burned my cues, and Tyreek Hill jumped into the fan section right here. I'll go ahead and run the play. We'll go on a slow-mo roll right here as well. We can see they're in shotgun formation, and there's the motion right there from Alec Ingold, but it's not going across the formation, Alf. It's a couple of steps, and he looks like he's going to be blocking, and then he leaks right out as an underneath. This has to be kind of new. Have you seen this before?
I have not seen that before. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me a little bit of the touchdown that Tua threw to Raheem Mostert versus the Cowboys, where he tries to get lost in the wash. It's a great combination, and it's really interesting how they work this out right here and where the snap point is, right? The snap point is right in the B gap, that's by design. This snap did not come late or early or anything. It came right on time. So it was well timed. That also slows down the pass rush, by the way, because they're looking at the motion. They're expecting the motion to complete. And then you're snapping it when he's at the B gap. It slows down your pass rush because you don't expect the snap right there. You're trying to time the snap. And look at the nearest defensive end and look what happens to him when he sees the motion. See it?
He's held up. Held up.
He hesitated just a little bit and he gets locked up by a tight end. So yeah, that motion kind of works like a run action, really.
And you see Tua's hips as well. Everyone's trying to take a look at his body and his hips, and he's looking over to the right. Flips it again. Oh, look, everyone hesitates. Tyreek Hill is running right across. Gets his man. Boom. Anticipates it right there.
Yeah, that was a good-looking play, man.
Good-looking play. I think there is another one here with a motion. Let me see if I can find it. Tua's been doing this hip flip a lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been doing it since last year. He did it more last year. And I'm telling you, that's a killer for safeties, because safeties see him dropping like that, and their natural inclination is to leverage that way, and then he flips, and it throws them off. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
I believe this one was from today as well. Shotgun formation as well. They're a little bit close up. What are you seeing on the defense? Looks like they're playing too high shell as well. Yeah. We know the Dolphins practice a lot with the Fangio defense in camp and training camp as well against this Fangio defense. So they should have had a pretty good day today. What are you looking at pre-snap right here?
Well, pre-snap, they're not declaring anything. They're in too high shell, and they're not even giving up their leverage. But I would guess that they change the leverage, and they do. You see, it's middle of the field open. Because look at the top. Look at the cornerback on the top, which he actually blitzes. Mike Hughes blitzes, but look at the cornerback on the bottom. He's trying to squeeze it inside, and look at the linebacker how immediately he turns. So they're bending the leverage that way, and the safeties are completely honest. So cover two.
Cover two. Everything is pretty much covered deep. The pass rush is getting there, and Mike Hughes blitzes off the edge. If this was a real game, I thought this would be a sack, but let's take a look at the motion again right here. The motion point right here from Tanner Conner. He's motioning out. Snap right there, and we have a puller. Hey, whoa. We have a puller right here. Everyone's thinking, holy crap, it's a run. It's a run. We have a puller here, right? At least that's what they teach you in high school and even college as well. You see a pulling guard, go for the hole. Get that man. We know there's a runner coming that way. This is a run concept. However, they're passing the ball here, Alf. So what is this type of pulling by the guard and the motion? What does this do to the defense before I
Well,
run
it's
this
gonna
motion?
hold. It's gonna hold that linebacker on the hash while you leak out the tight end across the formation, and that's how you get that leveraged pass. Like run the play, and look at that linebacker on the hash. The pull holds them, and by the way, Mike Hughes is not gonna get there. Okay, and then look at the leak, and there it is, and look how much space there is for Julian Hill.
Very smart play design. And
So those things are called, by the way, those are leveraged passes. Okay, so it's a
Mhm.
design. That ball is designed to go there and nowhere else. It's not designed to be thrown anywhere else but to Julian Hill across the formation.
Really?
Yes,
So it's by design for sure, 100%.
yes, it's by design. That's not a safety valve. That's a design. You can even call it a screen, but it's a design.
Now, the way that they're running these motions, obviously, is this quote unquote new, or is this just an improvement of what they did last year?
It's an improvement on what they did last year. It's there's a couple of changes in that you can see. So, you know, remember everything they do as far as all their motions is about keeping guys in certain spots, making them do what you want them to do. So you got to think of the Dolphins offense as like a puppet on the string, and it's the strings on the puppet, right? So you're trying to make the puppet do the things you want to do to make it dance the way you want it to dance. And right here, they managed to get that linebacker to hold on the hash while they leak the tight end across the formation, and you created a design leverage pass. Okay.
That's how many yards right there? They're at the 50.
Oh, I saw this play and I marked it. It was almost a 30-yard run. Like if this was live, he's rumbling down against safeties and cornerbacks down the sideline. It's at least 21 yards and it could be 30.
And then the fight breaks out at the end of the play right there.
Yeah, on the opposite field because somebody got tackled. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. All right. So these new motions, we have to see in the preseason game how they do it, how they want to do it. And this factors in a lot with the tight ends, how they're going to block in these motions. I got a feeling, I had a sneaky feeling, especially with Smythe and Julian Hill when they do motion out from in line to the out. It allows them to have an extra blocker, let the play develop a little bit more deep as well. But even with Alec Ingold, heck, we saw these motions from the running backs, the Haas motions that I learned from Eric and that our viewers learned from Eric as well. That's going to create leverage, not only, for A-Chain or Mostert as a decoy, but that leverage could be for a guy like Malik Washington, for Odell Beckham Jr., for River Cracraft as well, who, by the way, hopefully he stays healthy this entire season because he's pretty reliable for Tua Tagovailoa as well.
River Cracraft has had a great camp. And quite frankly, he's been their third best wide receiver so far. So if he's healthy all year, you're going to have yourself a pretty good group because when Odell Beckham comes back, you still have your developmental guy in Malik Washington. If you're going to keep Braxton Berrios, that's a guy that you've counted on before. It's going to be a really good group because so far the back end of the wide receiver group has just not been good. It's not been good. Nobody's emerged from the back end of that room.
And is that why they keep signing guys like Willie Snead and
Yes, Willie Snead has, in my opinion, is already better than Braxton Berrios. Okay.
wow.
And is much more reliable. And remember, he is from that system. He's from San Francisco system. He's been there 2 years learning it. He is an excellent blocker, which also fits in with their motif, let's say. Okay. So yeah, I like what they've done as far as supplementing what they had on the back end. But I think the time is running out on Braylon Sanders, Anthony Schwartz, and the like.
Now, with these new motions that they're going to have to block a lot, does this pave the way for Jaylen Wright to get more snaps as a running back or potentially in the fast 21 personnel package?
Absolutely. And, I think that's something that they're going to explore. I can't wait to watch him play because He spent the first 2 days at camp essentially trying to learn all these motions and time them up correctly with the quarterback. Those 2 days, it's almost as if those 2 days never happened because all of that is gone. Like, he is pretty sharp with the playbook and pretty sharp with his motions when he's asked to do them. And his timing is pretty spot on. He's had a very, very, very good camp. And he does things that only really Mostert and Achane can do on this team. Like, you could see his speed on the perimeter, and it matters. And it's noticeable. So I can't wait to watch him play on Friday. That's a fact.
Interesting. We will have to see all of these new developments on Friday's preseason game up against the Atlanta Falcons. All right, the big news, Aaron Brewer and his non-dominant hand allegedly being hurt. Have you heard of any news out of Dolphins camp? Is Brewer okay? I got a feeling he may be sitting out for this first preseason game, kind of trying to see what Liam and Sean Harlow and the other offensive linemen do.
Yeah, no, I don't think any of the starters are probably going to play in this game. Okay. But I will say this. I heard it was his right hand. He snaps with his right hand, I believe.
I think he snaps with his left hand, but
he snaps with his left hand because that's the thing. Because first of all, nobody knew which hand it was. You know.
Yeah, it was his right hand that they examined.
It was his right hand, right?
It was his right hand. Interesting. And Conor Williams just signed with the Seahawks yesterday as well on a pretty cheap deal. So
yeah, but you got to remember this. I don't think he's playing for half the season. So
right.
Is it cheap or is it market value?
Right. Is there a cause for concern for Aaron Brewer and the center situation going on for this Dolphins team for the foreseeable future?
Well, I think that they have to get a dedicated center. They've tried everything there. Today they moved to Liam Eichenberg really, really quickly after Aaron Brewer got hurt. But we shall see. We shall see. Those things can linger. And in fact, I'm reading something about it right now. Okay. Maybe I could report this a little bit later on. I can't right now. But look, if nothing's broken in his hand, all right, we're talking about less than a week's rest if he has some type of bruise or some type of ligament damage in any of his fingers. He's a center. Remember that their motion is this. They're not throwing the ball. They're not even securing the ball. And remember, most of them have their hands taped, right? So if he has ligament damage, even if he has a broken finger, he could buddy it up to another finger, and you could snap the ball fine like that. Okay? Because all you gotta do is just grab the laces, make sure your pinky is on the lace, right? Even if it's a broken hand, you can still buddy up your fingers. Do the whole little Vulcan tape job, okay? With your thumb out, and you can still snap perfectly, right? So
he's saying there was a cut on his hand. Can't confirm though.
Well, nobody knows what it is. Everybody knows that that he walked into the facility. That's it. That he walked into the building. And by the way, when people say, "Oh my God, he walked into Baptist Health," they made it sound like, "Oh my God, he walked into a hospital." No, the building where Baptist Health is right on the practice field. So you go in through the fence, and instead of going to the right where the media is, you go to the left where the building is. So it's attached right to the field. You're walking 10 feet, okay, to just get out of the practice field. So if he has a cut on his hand, even better. You know what I mean? Because you stitch that up, tape it up, and a story, and you're playing. Okay, and you could practice soon rather than later.
Right. The next person is Odell Beckham Jr. We haven't seen him a lot at practice. He's been on the sidelines as well. Are they playing it safe with Odell Beckham Jr., or is there something else lingering?
I've seen him, okay, and he looks fine to me. He's running fast, sprinting, cutting, catching the ball. He looks like he's ramping up toward playing, which kind of tells me, look, he's just ramping up. He has a process, and his process does not entail playing the first preseason game, okay? And his process does not entail practicing the first week or the second week of camp. He's working toward playing, and I think we see him sooner rather than later.
Right. He's trying to extend his playing time capacity as much as he can. With Jaylen Waddle, obviously, uh, he was on the sidelines in sweatpants as well. Is this more so load management for Jaylen Waddle, or just making sure no soft tissue injury lingers for the beginning of the season for him, kind of like it did last season?
Yeah, you're gonna be cautious with these things. Like if he feels anything that is, problematic, give him 4 or 5 days off. He doesn't need none of this. He doesn't need none of these days. All he really needs is a week of practice to time up with Tua and probably one preseason game, and we're off. You know what I mean? So he doesn't really need a lot of these practices. So they're going to be cautious with him as they should.
And the next person, Jordan Poyer, hasn't practiced 6 times. At the last 6 practices, he hasn't been on the field now. I believe his wife reported that there's really nothing wrong with him. It's just his thumb.
Yeah.
Does he need the practice? Is he okay, or is he just on vet rest?
Yeah. Look, I think he has campitis, which is what affects 30-something-year-olds in camp in the middle of August when it's hot as hell. You know what I mean? So, I'd expect him sooner rather than later. He has a thumb issue. Rachel Bush pointed out correctly that he had an interception after he had the thumb injury. So it was okay. So, that he's getting a few days rest, that's fine. Very good sign toward the end of his participation here early on in camp. They were picking up a lot of the defenses really, really quickly. And those meetings that they were having early on in camp, early on in practice, while some of the guys were stretching, it was him, Holland, with the secondary and pass game coordinator. They were just talking over the play calls, the calls in the back end. And it was him, Ramsey, Holland, and sometimes Kendall Fuller. They were working on their calls, their communication, and it's gone off without a hitch, really, since then.
Really?
Yeah.
Because this defense is very, very complex.
They picked that up. They picked that up pretty quickly, and you could see why. And you're going to begin to see why once you see these games. It's not to say that it's simple, but there's certain things that they do that are cues, and we'll talk about it as we get some tape of actual gameplay, because then I could point the cues out to about from this defense. So it's interesting stuff. I saw some stuff today as far as personnel groupings on the pass rush that were very, very cool, but I can't reveal any of that stuff. You shall see them in due time. So, yeah, this defense is a lot of fun to watch. Very aggressive. It's not what you saw last year. Last year was very, very vanilla, very rules based and oriented. This defense is very different than that.
Of course, we will see a lot of these new things for the first preseason game, and stick with us here on the Scout and Combine, because we intend to do an all 22 review of some of the key plays from that first preseason game, along with some of these early standouts we talked about. Stick with us here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network here on the Scout and Combine. Alf, thank you for joining. As always, go Fins.